Imagine you are inside in the Museum of Modern Art in New York, late in 1944. On the walls hang strange photographs and drawings, some practical, others covered with pockets and buttons serving no real function. In the center of the hall, a large sign declares warning, this is not a fashion or dress reform show. Yet in reality, the exhibition was a bold statement on the relationship between fashion and architecture. Architect Bernard Ludaski used his exhibition, Art Clothes Modern, to critique modern architecture from an accepted angle clothing. He believed modern dress was full of contradictions, buckets without purpose, buttons without meaning, just as the international style at the time featured ornamental elements with no necessity. His message was clear. If we want to reform architecture, we must start with daily life, with habits, with the clothes we wear, not with abstract ideals detached from reality. But how did the relationship between architecture and fashion evolve? That we will discover in a new episode of Zakaret El-Omara. I am Muhammad Diab and let's dive into the memory of architecture and fashion. From here, Lily Kane's paper takes us on a journey through the history of the relationship between architecture and fashion since the late 19th century. Many modern architects like Henry van de Velde, Joseph Hoffman, Lily Rickard, and Frank Lloyd Wright either designed clothing or wrote about fashion, while others like Otto Wagner and Adolf Loos took strong intellectual positioning. At the heart of this debate lay a kind of fashion phobia, often linked to a masculine discourse that saw ornament, color, and service as a phenomenon threatening the purity of architecture. Keeney outlined three key concepts shaping this relationship. Number one, the idea of cladding, as proposed by Gottfried Simber, viewing the building's surface not a mere covering, but as an integral part of its composition like clothing on a body. Number two is the dress reform movement, which sought to simplify clothing in parallel with effort to simplify architecture and strip it of ornamentation. Number three, anti-fashion, resisting the transit nature of trends in favor of fixed style and standardized proportions. This idea emerged in clear historical examples. Le Corbusier linked the simple facade of modern architecture to classic, ornament-free man's suit. Adolf Loos used English tailoring as a benchmark for elegance and appropriateness in domestic design. Exhibitions like Stuttgart Wiesenhof, staged in 1927, embodied the meeting of modern architecture with standardizing principles inspired by ready-to-wear clothing. Gender was a constant presence in the debate. The man's suit was framed as a symbol of stability, while women's clothing was associated with changeability and decoration. The question becomes, should we hold on a fixed style or follow the shifts of fashion? When we leave history and step into contemporary design, we find architects like Zaha Hadid, who didn't believe in boundaries between a building and shoe. She designed fluid, wire-like buildings and shoes shaped like futuristic facades. Collaborating with Louis Vuitton and United Nude, she created dresses and shoes carrying the same philosophy of flow and non-linearity. For her, a shoe wasn't merely something to wear. It was a symbol building for the body, same for same logic. Even the materials seems like curved liquid steel ignoring right angles. On the other side stands Dutch architect Riem Koolhaas, who saw fashion as a sensitive urban field. He founded AMO, a research unit with his firm, dedicated to designing broader fashion shows and tours, and to analyzing consumer culture and identity through fashion. Koolhaas believed fashion was faster than architecture in reading society and that clothing was not just fleeting taste, but a political practice. For him, the hijab, like any special practice, reflected negotiations between the individual and authority, between body and street, between performance and the gaze of others. In the world architecture inspired fashion, Hussein Çlayın, the British designer of Turkish origin, created dresses that transformed into furniture, clothes that become a table or chair, or unfolded mechanically like moving facades. His designs were not just style statements, they were open-ended questions. Is clothing a place? Is the body a portal home? Does clothes carry memories? What about migration and safety? These are the same questions posed by architecture. We also meet Aris van Herpen, who used 3D printing and architectural algorithms inspired by biology and physics to design garments that encoded concepts of structure, textures, movement, and visual identity. almost as if she were building a city but no on the human body. Yet the story does not stop here. Today, the relationship between architecture and fashion entering a new phase, driven by technology. In the metaverse, building or dress is no longer necessarily a physical object. You can wear a digital cladding unbound by gravity or material constraints. Designers like the demoralized and Orbaus create garments that cannot exist physically, living instead a 3D design in virtual space, much like digital architecture that builds sets impossible in real life. Augmented reality AR has also erased the barrier between body and place. Buildings can be clad in instantly changeable digital facades, and clothes can be programmed to transfer visually in real time through smart glasses. Here, cladding becomes a dynamic medium shifting with identity, mood, and even political events. Smart clothing depends these intersections at the function level. Suits that regulate body temperature, like intelligent building facades, or fabric that responds to the wearer's movement, just as interactive mechanical facades do in contemporary architecture. Dutch architect Mark Kusch once said in an interview, "In the metaverse, the buildings become a dress, and the dress becomes a city. We are moving from designing space to designing experiences." And take fashion designers Enilo told Dizin, "I see no difference between a dress and a building if both can adapt to their user in real time." This new stage makes old question: is clothing a place, or is architecture a form of clothing, more complex and existing? In digital space, the answer might be both, and at the same time neither. The boundaries between body and place, inside and outside, dissolve into a hybrid experience where fashion becomes portable architecture and architecture becomes a fashion crossing the borders of the physical and virtual. In the end, that's clear that the relationship between architecture and fashion is not just a superficial overlap or a similarity in visual forms. It's a deep philosophical and interaction bond. It permeates concepts of time, identity, gender, and consumption. Both architecture and fashion set boundaries for the body, whether individual or collective, and create meaning in space through service, cladding, color, ornamentation, or their absence. Architecture dresses the city just as fashion dresses the body. The former shapes our experience of living in space. The latter shapes our experience of living within ourselves. In the presence of others, personal cladding becomes the meeting point of the two fields, representing the portable, mobile direction of architecture, meaning a service that reflects identity, a daily design choice, a visual statement that can be a political, cultural, or aesthetic. As history and contemporary examples show, the service, whether a wall or a fabric, is never a neutral wearer, but a medium that translates ideas, attitudes, and values into a tangible visual language. Whenever we put on a garment or cross the threshold of the building, we engage in unspoken dialogue with space and society. We participate in shaping the visual and symbolic scene of our era. And that's for today. We have stepped inside and explored the memory of architecture and fashion. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the episode and want to know more about Zakaret العمارة, share and like if you are in YouTube, and follow us if you are in Instagram. Bye bye.